As you continue forward, you may realize that what once motivated you no longer does. External validation loses its pull. Approval becomes optional. This shift is not accidental. God is teaching you to move from internal conviction rather than external confirmation. When identity stabilizes, dependence on affirmation fades. You no longer need permission from the room when you already carry permission from heaven. This is where maturity begins to surface quietly. You stop explaining yourself. You stop defending every decision. You allow fruit to speak in time. Confidence settles not as excitement, but as steadiness. You learn that strength does not rush and clarity does not shout. God trains discernment through patience so that wisdom can lead where impulse once dominated. There will be moments when obedience feels ordinary, even anticlimactic. No surge of emotion. No visible breakthrough. Just quiet consistency. Do not underestimate these moments. Repetition is how identity becomes instinct. What you practice faithfully eventually becomes who you are without effort. God uses repetition to root truth so deeply that it remains. When pressure increases, pressure will increase. Not to break you, but to reveal what has been formed. Testing does not create strength, it exposes it. When strain comes, you will notice that you no longer collapse the way you once did. You respond instead of retreat. You remain present instead of panicking. This is evidence of growth you may not have recognized yet. At times, the process may feel lonely. Not because God has withdrawn, but because dependence is being refined. Certain supports must loosen so trust can deepen. God often removes what once stabilized you so that He can become your primary reference point. This is not abandonment. It is invitation into deeper reliance. You may also sense a narrowing of choices. Opportunities that once seemed appealing now feel misaligned. This is discernment sharpening. Focus is being protected. When purpose becomes clearer, options naturally become fewer. God does not confuse direction with excess. He simplifies so movement can be clean and intentional. In this stage, your sensitivity to God's voice increases, but so does your responsibility to respond. Revelation without obedience creates frustration. Clarity without movement creates stagnation. God continues speaking where response is present. Each time you move in alignment, the next layer of direction becomes accessible. Expect resistance to resurface, not dramatically, but subtly. Fatigue. Distraction. Delay. These are not signs you are doing something wrong. They are signs you are doing something significant. The enemy does not waste effort on what carries no impact. Resistance often confirms proximity to purpose. Guard your inner dialogue carefully here. What you speak to yourself matters. Agreement with truth sustains momentum. Self-accusation weakens it. God's voice never rushes or shames. It invites, anchors, and strengthens. When thoughts begin to spiral, return to alignment rather than argument. Truth does not need to be debated, it needs to be believed. You may notice that your prayers begin to change. Less pleading. More partnering. Less fear. More trust. Your language shifts from asking for permission to walking in responsibility. This is a sign that identity is settling. Authority matures when prayer aligns with purpose rather than panic. With this comes restraint. You will feel less compelled to react, correct, or convince. Silence becomes a tool, not a weakness. Timing matters. God teaches you when to speak and when to wait. Discernment grows as you learn that not every battle requires engagement and not every moment requires explanation. As responsibility increases, so does the need for integrity. God watches how you steward small authority before releasing greater influence. How you treat people when you don't need anything from them. How you remain faithful when no one is watching. These unseen moments shape the foundation of what you will carry publicly. There will be times when you question whether progress is happening at all. This is where faith becomes active rather than theoretical. Growth does not always feel productive. Often, it feels repetitive, restrained, and slow. But roots deepen before branches expand. God builds longevity before visibility. You are being trained for sustainability, not momentum bursts. Emotional highs cannot sustain long-term calling. Consistency can. God is shaping rhythms that will hold you steady when seasons change. What you are learning now will protect you later. Eventually, you will look back and recognize the shift, not in a single moment, but in patterns. You will notice how your reactions changed, how your priorities realigned, how your confidence settled. The transformation will not announce itself, but it will be undeniable. What once required effort will feel natural, what once felt heavy will feel aligned, what once confused you will feel clear. This is how becoming works, quietly, gradually, intentionally. God is not rushing you because He is not unsure. He is not testing you because He is not doubtful. He is forming you because He is faithful. Remain responsive, remain surrendered, remain steady. You are not trying to reach who you are meant to be, you are learning how to live from it, and as you do, you will discover that what God has prepared does not require striving, only alignment, not force, only faithfulness, not perfection, only obedience. The way forward is already established. Your role is not to invent it, but to walk it, step by step, with trust, with clarity, with courage. The door remains open. The invitation stands, and you are ready, not because you feel complete, but because God has already spoken. Readiness in the kingdom is not measured by confidence, clarity, or comfort. It is measured by obedience. God does not wait for perfection before He calls movement. He calls movement to produce maturity. What you step into refines what still needs shaping. Growth is not a prerequisite, it is a consequence of obedience. You will not outgrow fear by waiting. Fear loses its power through action. Each aligned step weakens hesitation and strengthens trust. Courage does not appear before movement, it emerges through it. God meets motion with reinforcement. Do not confuse uncertainty with unpreparedness. Uncertainty simply means you are walking by faith rather than by familiarity. God often withholds full visibility so dependence can remain intact. When you cannot rely on what you see, you learn to rely on who is leading. You are also learning to carry responsibility without pressure. God entrusts weight gradually so it does not crush you. Authority matures as humility stays intact. You are being trained to hold influence without losing tenderness, to stand firm without becoming rigid. This season invites discernment over impulse. Not every opportunity is an assignment. Not every open door is yours to walk through. Readiness includes restraint, the wisdom to wait when movement would compromise alignment. God teaches you to value right timing over quick results. Expect pruning alongside progress. What falls away is not punishment, it is protection. God removes what would compete with the focus required ahead. When distractions loosen their grip, clarity strengthens. Space is being created for depth. You may feel the tension between who you have been and who you are becoming. That tension is not confusion, it is transition. God uses tension to stretch capacity, not to create strain. When you yield instead of resist, the stretch produces strength. Understand this as well, you are not being shaped to impress, you are being shaped to endure. What God releases through you must last beyond excitement and survive beyond seasons. Depth always precedes durability. Your obedience today is preparing you for trust tomorrow. God watches consistency more than intensity. Faithfulness in small decisions trains your spirit for larger responsibility. Every quiet yes builds spiritual muscle. As you move forward, choose alignment over explanation. You do not owe everyone clarity before you obey God. Some understanding comes after obedience, not before it. God validates movement, not justification. Remain attentive to God's voice in ordinary moments. Destiny is often shaped through small, repeated choices rather than dramatic turning points. The mundane is where discipline is formed and where character becomes reliable. Remember, you are not walking alone. God does not send without sustaining. He goes before you and remains with you. What He asks of you, He supplies strength for. What He entrusts to you, He supports fully, so walk forward without waiting for emotional certainty, stand without shrinking, respond without delay. You are not stepping into the unknown, you are stepping into obedience, and obedience has always been enough.